Over the coming weeks in our Sunday side salads, we're going to be looking at the topic of busyness. And the way we're going to do that is that for a few minutes each week, we'll look at some big Bible truths, which perhaps don't at first look like they have much to do with the problem of busyness. But when we unpack those big truths, we'll find that God's Word can actually help us a lot. Not just in explaining our experience of life, but also in helping shape the way we live it. As we do, you'll find some of the Bible verses that support what I'm saying will come up on the screen, and they're also on the talk notes. At the end of the talk notes, I've also put some questions for you to reflect on and think about. So here's the first big Bible truth. God is the powerful creator who works and rests, and we are his creatures, made in his image, who also work and rest. So let's unpack that statement this week and next. The first thing to note is that in terms of God and us, there's both a difference and a similarity. The difference is an obvious and fundamental one. It's the difference between the Creator and the created. As the Apostle Paul puts it in Romans 9, it's the stark difference between the potter and the clay. But this particular creature, humanity, is uniquely made in God's image, in his likeness. In other words, although there's a fundamental difference between us and God, there's also a significant similarity between us and God. And two of the areas in which that difference and similarity are expressed are work and rest. So note firstly that God is a worker. In Genesis 1, he creates the world. And in chapter 2, that creative act is described as God's work. You might even say that God has been busy. And to this day, he continues to be busily at work in the world, sustaining it by his powerful word. And in Genesis, when God creates the man and woman, he gives them work to do, to work the garden and take care of it. So God the worker creates men and women to be like him as workers. As a result, we can say that having things to do, whether paid or unpaid, actually reflects God's own nature and is a part of God's good created order. But as workers, there's also a fundamental difference between God and us. God the Creator is all-powerful. He speaks and it happens. In doing his work of creating the world, God said, "Let there be," and there was. God is never frustrated because he can't achieve what he wants to achieve. But that's not true of you or me, is it? In fact, in the book of Ecclesiastes, the teacher reminds us of what it's like to be a creature in this fallen world of painful toil. So I hated life, because the work that is done under the sun was grievous to me. All of it is meaningless, a chasing after the wind. See, there's a frustration to the life of a creature. We're not in control. We can be really busy, and in the end, it can prove to be a total chasing after the wind. Yet it's not all negative. There's still a God-given satisfaction found in work and busyness. A person can do nothing better than to eat and drink and find satisfaction in their own toil, says that same teacher in Ecclesiastes. This too is from the hand of God. In fact, the Bible sees busyness and industriousness as very positive virtues and is quite negative about idleness and laziness. Work and busyness are positive in part because they're a means for blessing others. For example, in Ephesians 4, the Apostle Paul says we should work, doing something useful with our hands, that we may have something to share with those in need. In the Bible, busyness is only a negative thing if it is misdirected, if it means we neglect responsibilities and relationships that God himself gives us. So the bottom line for today is this. It's important that we remember that well-directed busyness is a good thing. Busyness is not the enemy. But there's more that needs to be said. And that comes next week when we think about the fact that God the worker also rests. If you have any questions about anything I've said, feel free to chat to me at church. And don't forget to look through the notes of today's talk and think about the reflection questions as well.